it's so important to have those positive representations. So to empower people to have good stories, to have positive stories. Like, we are not just sob stories and suicide statistics. We are that. Like, that's part of our community. But there's so much joy and power and magic in being transgender. And like, for me, like, I love being trans. I like absolutely love it. I think it's such a special experience to think about, like, how what a rich experience it is to live in this world, to have had, the upbringing that I had and the experiences that I had to become and be the person that I am today.
I think my being gay and having to navigate what that meant in the world, specifically the sports world that I was in, actually has served me in ways that I could have never imagined. Because in those early days of trying to understand who I was and what I wanted to be and what my voice was, I became a master bullshitter at fitting into all spaces at all times. So I had the ability to walk into rooms, to walk into spaces, not only in the sports world, but in everything that I was doing, and kind of have a spidey sense of how people were talking, how they were holding their bodies, what were we doing in these spaces, and how could I make sure that, I didn't want to be seen, I didn't want to be noticed, but I was screaming to be noticed, right? So I was conflicted with all those things. So it was a real mind trip every single day of trying to navigate how I fit into every space that I walked into. And I became really good at it.
I initially thought I was going to physically transition after college, but I was like, I have to take this opportunity to play professionally, to be a professional athlete. So I delayed my physical transition. I delayed coming out. And I played a season not as myself with the NWHL. And then that summer is when I saw Chris. And that's when I was like, I see a trans athlete. I had never seen a trans athlete before. It was the first time I ever saw it. And it was like mind-blowing to me. And I was like, I can be a trans athlete. So I made the decision to come out publicly. I came out through an ESPN article in 2016, became the first professional transgender hockey player. The NWHL adopted a trans policy with the help of Chris, and you can play. And I was able to be authentically myself as Harrison and play my sport. And I never thought I'd be able to do that.
When I understood what where my identity was and how I was keeping that identity in a false box, in a frame that was not the right frame for me. When I realized that, it was releasing, and not without fear. Oh my God, tremendous fear in terms of what would happen. But over the past 18 months, I've come to learn that I have to love me first, sense that my identity is Zoe, my identity is a woman, my identity is that experience. And there's things I will never know, just will never know, because biologically, yes, I still, have those male chromosomes, and I don't have that full female experience. So belonging as a woman in a society where we tend to have strict gender roles, by and large, that are bifurcated, you're male and you're female. And people like me are in between. And sometimes I even kind of scratch my head and go, where do I sit in that spectrum? But over time, my sense of belonging has come through my self-confidence. My self-confidence has come from acceptance and being accepted by people.
I'm seeing horrible journalism. I don't want to get on a pedestal, but I'm seeing horrible journalism being done right now that is dehumanizing people, that's stripping them of their truth and their experience. And as somebody that has had that happen to me, I know the pain of that, and I know the cost of that. And so to me, that's what this has always been about, is in everything that I do, remembering the humanity that exists within all of us. And we are capable of doing really horrific things to varying degrees when we forget about the humanity that exists within all of us.
I think the way that we change and move the needle here is really by having that positive representation and making sure that we are humanizing transgender people. Because one of the big problems that, like, particularly in the United States right now, over 30 states have some sort of bill that would prevent transgender people from participating in sports, and from elementary school up to college in some cases, but certainly for high school for all of them. And I think about all of those amazing experiences I had as a high school athlete, what sport meant to me as a young person, and how every person should have that opportunity to have those experiences with their peers. And what I see when they're having these conversations, lawmakers, people who are making these decisions, is that they've never met a trans person in a lot of cases. That it's very easy to dehumanize us, to believe what you read on a Twitter headline if you've never met a trans person. And in the United States, over 80% of people believe they've never met a trans person in real life. And that's like, believe, so maybe they have, but they just don't know it. And if you don't know someone from a group of people, it's very easy to demonize them, to take away their human rights. And so, the more positive representation that we have in film, in media, in TV, in magazines, just out in the world, the more people see us, the more people know that we are humans, that we are not a monolith, that there is infinite ways to be trans, just like there is infinite ways to be a cisgender person. I think that will help us move forward. So, it's busting some of those myths and misconceptions about the trans community. And like for me, particularly in sport, what does that mean? And education, I think, is really the pathway.